Hey there, Derek Rydall here, founder of the Law of Emergence and author of the best-selling books Emergence and the Abundance Project, which you can grab your copy of by going to Amazon, or if you want to go to myemergencebook.com or getemergencebook.com or theabundanceprojectbook.com. You can grab a copy there and hundreds of dollars in bonuses. You can also check out all of my podcasts on the Emergence podcast, get lots of free trainings about every aspect of how to activate the full emergence of your life. And you can go to my YouTube channel and get a bunch of videos about the same topics and different topics, as well as like my Facebook page here. And that way you'll never miss a new video or all the goodies and freebies that I release. And finally, you can go to DerekRydall.com and go into the free resource section and download some more fun stuff and goodies for you, strategies, tips, and tools to live a deeper purpose, a greater life, and a more successful life. And we're talking today about, do you know what story you're in? Do you know what story you're in? You might think, what do you mean? What stories are there to be in? And the thing about it is that it seems like we're just living our lives and we're making choices and things are happening to us and we're happening to some things, but that's not really entirely what's going on here. What's really happening is that there's a storyline that has been imprinted in you, that has been created since you were young, where you developed a map of reality and a sense of identity and coping and survival mechanisms to make it through that map of reality. Not so much to make it through the world as it really is, but the world as you perceived it to be and as the person you perceived yourself to be. And over time, that created a storyline. Now, it may have evolved over the years, but for most people, a lot of the fundamental building blocks of that initial story that got created, they're still living it out. It might be a different set of characters, a different cast, different props, different set pieces, better or worse production values, but we're fundamentally living the same story. Unless you do the work to really discover what story you're in. Understand, it's not usually good enough merely to do all the external based work of success strategies, to just be better and do better and work harder and work smarter and manage your time and manage your energy. All of those are great. But what happens is if you have not really understood the story you're in and decided that you really want to live that story or create a new story and what it takes to do that, then all these other strategies, self-improvement and success and spiritual and religious strategies on top of that, you might end up working harder and faster and smarter, but you're still going to be in that story about a boy or a girl who is in a world where there's not enough and they're not enough and they have to struggle and strive and prove and defend in order to achieve what they want. You follow what I'm saying? So you really got to understand, what is the story you're in? So how do you do that? How do you begin to understand what story you're living? And one of the things I want to invite you to do over the next 7 to 10 days is a few practices of writing, where you, first of all, if you have like any physical pain in your body, aches, pains, whatever, take time to be with that feeling or that sensation and let it have a voice. If it could have a voice, what would it say? Feel into the feelings of it. If it's a sensation, there's an emotion there too often. And then you can ask, if that emotion could speak, what would it say? And write that down. And if that part of the body could speak, what would it say? Write that down. And then if you're in any particular challenges, chronic challenges, or things that are triggering you, or people that are triggering you, sit with the trigger or the challenge. Notice the emotion that it brings up. Find it in your body. It might even just be a numbness or a tightness in your chest or your belly. But notice where it's at. Notice what it feels like. Feel the sensations and the feelings fully. And then again, ask, if you could have a voice, what would you say? And write that down. Okay? And you can also sit with whatever your goals are, whatever your desires are, whatever your dreams are that you've been striving or struggling to achieve. And sit down with that goal or that idea and be honest with yourself and what you really think and feel about it, not what you want to think and feel about it. This is not a spiritual bypass. This is not putting a pretty affirmation on top of the facts of your emotional and mental life. This is about giving yourself permission to be truly honest and authentic with where you really are. You can't get to where you want to go until you're honest with where you really are. So then you can think, well, I want to achieve this money or this job or whatever, but if I'm honest, I'm really afraid I'm not good enough and it's never going to happen and things never work out for me, or no matter how hard I try, it never works out, or whatever. Write all of that down. Okay? And then during this 7 to 10 day period, if you notice emotions coming up, fear, anger, sadness, grief, pause, be with that emotion. These are messengers. Fear is often signaling, other than pure instinctual fear, it's a signal that you're believing a lie in most cases. And that lie is pointing you to a deeper truth. But you want that you're meant to apprentice under, but you want to write that lie down, write the belief down behind the fear. Anger is often signaling that your boundaries have been trespassed, but more often that was a long time ago, and now the anger that is built is really because you have continued to trespass your boundaries. You have continued to step over your own voice and needs. There's a story there, there's a message there, there's a cry there. Write it down. Doubt and worry is also a messenger. Now, it can be just a belief again. Things are never going to work out. They've never worked out before. The world is unsafe. People are out to get you. That might be there. But it also might be, in some cases, a very important message that you're unprepared or underprepared. For real. So write all that down. Okay? Now, one other thing you could do is if you notice that you are stuck or stagnant or resistant in doing something that you want or know you need to do, write down a sentence. I'm afraid that if I do this or if I achieve this, I will lose or have to sacrifice, fill in the blank. Or I'm afraid that if I do this, X will happen. And then imagine that situation happening that way that you're afraid of happening. And then if this happens, I would make that mean that I am, or I'm afraid others would think that I am. Write it down. Now you want to just begin compiling. You're just beginning to do an excavation, a research project into excavating the core belief patterns, the core emotional patterns and the core belief patterns, and really the core character that how you see yourself. So that at the end of it, you begin to see how you see the world, how you see yourself, and the emergence of the story that you're living. And the value of this, first and foremost, is that you cannot really have choice and free will until you have expanded awareness around what's running you. You begin to engage what's called metacognition, where you can begin to see what you're thinking about. In other words, think about what you're thinking about. You have metacognition, rather than just being in the thoughts, being stuck in the storyline or the simulation of the mind. You can step out of the matrix and observe. Now you get to make some new choices. So this is a journey of expanded awareness, and it might bring up deeper layers of emotion. So give yourself time as you look over it. Perhaps at the end of each day, you spend a few minutes just journaling and free writing, excuse me, about what other deeper layers come up. Don't think too hard, let it emerge. Let it feel, let it breathe, and then let it speak on the page. Then, now you can take that and you can kind of draft it out as the storyline. And note it, I, Derek, am such and such character, living in such and such a world, and this is my story. This is the story I'm in. And then you begin to look at your relationships, your work, and your history, and you begin to see all the connections, all the ways, oh my God, this is the story I've been living. Now you can begin to do the work to write a new story. It's beyond the scope of this training or talk to tell you how to do all those pieces. But one simple one, obviously, is you can begin to pull out very strong negative affirmations that are in your story. Like, there's never enough to go around, and it's never going to work no matter what I do. And create quote unquote positive affirmations and begin to use those as a daily mantra, as a journaling tool, as a point of meditation and contemplation. That's one thing you can do. The other thing is, if you're a thought leader, transformational teacher, coach, healer, change maker, influencer, you can begin to see that that story you're living and the character you've been playing, it's what I call the workshop you've been living. That is ultimately the workshop you're meant to be giving. So you can begin to see that it's universal, that you're not the only one in this story. And you begin to notice that somewhere in the work you want to do, it's because of the story you've been living that you're driven to do that work. And that inherent in your story, there's certain wisdom and nuggets and pearls and processes and ways you've survived, coped, gotten over, and maybe even succeeded in some ways because of the story, because of the pain, because of the challenge, that you can now more clearly codify and begin to share in your promotions or in your platform or in your books or writings or speaking, and it'll create so much more resonance for your ideal client or tribe. And again, as you begin to see that your whole life has been conspiring ultimately to support you in doing a deeper or greater work, it also begins to transmute the charge around the story. You begin to realize you weren't just such a victim, that life hasn't just been happening to you, it's actually been happening for you. It's been conspiring to build something in you, to develop a capacity and a consciousness and a compassion in you. So if you want to get even more information on this, you can go to DerekRydall.com, go to the free resources, download some of those free resources that are around how to, a guided meditation on how to activate your vision and tell a new story, the shadow process on how to work on some of those limited beliefs. And just stay tuned. Check out my podcast on iTunes, Emergence. Check out my YouTube channel. And there's all kinds of tools and strategies to begin to apply to the story so that you can write a story where you are no longer merely a prop in this divine production or an extra waiting in the wings, but you can finally become the star of your show. I hope this has helped you. Comment below what your biggest takeaway is and what you're going to do with this. Share it with those that you think it can support. And until next time, remember to live authentically, love unconditionally, and follow your destiny.